Some players are being drafted way higher than they were a year ago in fantasy football. Are they worth it, or are they traps for 2024? If you're ready to start drafting right now, you actually don't have to wait. Get on Underdog and do a best ball draft. They have tournaments open right now where you can draft and take advantage of those pre-NFL draft values on rookies, free agents, and more. Get in there right now. You can download the Underdog Fantasy app or click on the link in the description. Just make sure if you're signing up for the very first time on Underdog, use promo code NGAME because that gets you a 100% deposit match up to $100. And let's start with a guy who's now a first-round pick. Breece Hall came off ACL injury last year, so it's understandable that he was being drafted much lower. Round pick 84. And, well, he wound up leading all running backs in targets and receptions, and now he's a lot of times the number 2 running back off the board. Chris, should he be?
I think so. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that he was coming off a torn ACL last year, he probably would have been a consensus top 5 pick. Now, fully healthy. Gotta hope Aaron Rodgers stays healthy all year. I am absolutely behind Breece Hall being a top 6 pick in fantasy this year.
I agree, and I've been saying this for a while. I'll probably continue to say it because I doubt any rookie running back is going to really move the needle in any way as far as draft stock. I think there's 3 running backs that are worth a first-round pick to me. Obviously, CMC, Bijan Robinson, and Breece Hall, and I'm not even sure which order I have those 2 guys. So I don't love taking a running back that early necessarily, but if I am, Breece Hall's going to be one of them. Now, it's harder to have a bigger jump than a guy who wasn't even on draft boards anywhere, and that is Puka Nacua. Nobody saw him busting out to become not just the Rams' leading receiver, but one of the best receivers in the league and the best rookie receiver of this class. So, is he worth now a first-round pick, going 9th overall on average?
Again, I'm going to say yes. I think when you get to this range in the first round, maybe you could argue Garrett Wilson over him, but that's probably it. So I think Puka Nacua towards the end of the first round is very fair.
Yeah, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around him as a first rounder. But again, like you said, I like Garrett Wilson, like A.J. Brown. Am I convinced that those guys are going to outproduce Puka next year? Not really. I don't see Cooper Kupp all of a sudden having a comeback season. I think Puka is the guy in that pass-friendly offense. So, yeah, Puka at number 9, I'm comfortable with it. How about his teammate, Kyron Williams? Also, afterthought in fantasy drafts, and all of a sudden, he's going around pick 13. Do you see him belonging in almost first-round territory?
Definitely. I mean, we're talking about a workhorse running back in one of the best offenses for running backs because Sean McVay, no matter what, just seems like he just uses one guy, and that's it. He just wants to use one guy. Kyron Williams should get the bulk of the carries here, the bulk of the receptions, touchdown upside. So definitely, early second round, I think is definitely right for Kyron Williams.
It's pretty much impossible to argue with the results from last year, and you know any running back in that offense is going to be a fantasy stud. I don't love 13 overall, early second round. I prefer to get him mid to late second round, which means I'm probably not going to get him. I still have Jonathan Taylor a little bit higher. I think I still feel better about another receiver, so I'm not off of him at this ADP, but I think it's just a little too aggressive for a running back that is one of those top 3. Now, you know we're going to talk about that Houston offense. And the first one is Nico Collins, who also was a late-round pick, definitely one of our sleepers that we talked about. One of our favorite late-round picks is now a second-round pick. Is that too aggressive?
I kind of feel like it is. I mean, every time I do one of these underdog drafts and I see him there, I'm like, can I really pull the trigger on Nico Collins this early? I know he was fantastic down the stretch. But remember, Tank Dell was out. Tank Dell was hurt. Tank Dell should be back and healthy next year. I think both these guys will be great, but I do worry that it's going to cap Nico Collins' ceiling to a degree. So for me, pick 16, early second, just feels a little too early.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. You know, I liked him a lot more last year when nobody else was on him. You know how this goes. People undervalued this offense. Now they're going to probably overvalue it. I still love Nico. I don't love this ADP. And like you said, Tank Dell is still there, and they're going to do something at running back. Maybe it's Saquon Barkley, maybe it's not, but they're going to do something to help the running game out. So it's just a little too early. Is it too early for Devon Achane, This is a guy who was, again, kind of a late round flyer. He went just inside pick 100 a year ago. Now all of a sudden we've seen his ADP jump up to 17 overall. I mean, even for me, I feel like that's too much.
I agree. I mean, a few weeks ago, it felt like I was getting him in the third round. Now he's going mid-early second. It's starting to feel a little too early for Achane. Remember, Raheem Mostert still under contract, still there. And there is some talk that they may try to sign Derrick Henry. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think Achane being like a workhorse running back and making a huge leap in year 2 is far from a sure thing. So right now, this also feels a bit too early for me to be taking Achane.
I understand the appeal in best ball because, hey, Spike Week, yeah, he can do that. But in a traditional redraft league, I think he's going to go probably too soon. We can't just conveniently forget that he was hurt a lot in his rookie season. He's a small guy. It could definitely happen again. And this is not the type of offense that uses a bell cow back. They're going to mix and match. So best ball even, I still feel like this is a little bit too soon. So I would prefer if he was going in the at least mid-20s. You know, everybody loves a good Chiefs receiver. Well, they finally actually have a good receiver. Haven't had one since Tyreek Hill left. Rashee Rice, didn't expect him to bust out as a rookie, but he did. Is pick 22 overall. Too aggressive, though.
Again, I'm going to say yes. I think this is too aggressive. When I first started doing underdog drafts, this was the pick that stood out to me as the most shocking. Like, how is Rashee Rice going in the second round of fantasy drafts? I know he was good last year, but that's the thing. He was good. He wasn't great. He wasn't like Puka Nacua. Even if he gets better in year 2, he's going to have to get significantly better to be worth a second round pick. And the Chiefs are probably going to do something at wide receiver. And Travis Kelce is coming back. So, yeah, I think this is way too high as well.
Yeah, and this is a case where I don't know if it even matters if the Chiefs do bring in anybody at receiver that's competent. I think with Rashee Rice, it's logical to assume that a rookie will get better in year 2, year 3, and so on. I don't know if Rice is just going to do the same thing. I think he will because this offense does not focus on just one receiver. Like you said, Kelsey's still there. So, yeah, I like Rice, but not this much. All right, back to Houston. Tank Dell also pretty much an afterthought last year in drafts, and now he's going pick 28 overall. Do you like that better than Nico?
I do. I mean, I think between the two, I would prefer to take Tank Dell at 28. This guy, when he was healthy, had unbelievable upside every week. I know it was a small sample, but if he's going to have similar or better upside than Nico, and look, I think he has way more upside than a guy like Rashee Rice, who we just talked about, I'd much rather get him in the third round than get Nico early second or Rashee Rice late second. So I'm actually okay with this spot for Tank Dell.
Definitely preferred Tank at his ADP than Nico. I still feel like this is early, but I'm willing to deal with it because at least we know he'll be one of the top 2 targets in that pretty pass-heavy offense. I think for me the main question is how pass-heavy will that offense be next year? But for now, I'm okay with this. Now, this one actually caught me off guard a little bit looking at Michael Pittman. Last year going around pick 63, which seems reasonable. This year, his ADP has jumped up to 29, and I'm trying to figure out why.
Well, he had a good year. I mean, he had a good year last year. Remember, 2 years ago, when I was like all over Michael Pittman, this is about where he was being drafted, and then he had to play with Matt Ryan. He didn't have a great year, but he had a very good year last year. I think this is right for him. Michael Pittman is a good player. Anthony Richardson should be healthy. He's the clear number 1 in Indy. I don't think he's going to leave Indy, so I think this is good value for Michael Pittman.
Well, I agree. This is a pretty fair value for him. Just surprised that his ADP has jumped that much. Anthony Richardson should be healthy for the year. Let's hope. I just don't know if we're going to see anything significantly better from Pittman than we saw the year before. But, from what we saw last year, that's totally fine. And then you knew Sam Laporta was going to be on here. Now, pick 30, and he's pretty much the consensus tight end 1 in fantasy drafts. I have a feeling that's going to stick. Should it stick?
Yeah, it's got to stick. I mean, he's got to be the tight end 1. And it's nice to see that the first tight end going off the board this year is going in round 3. Unlike the last couple years where we've seen Travis Kelce go in round 1. People kind of cooled off on that. I think getting Sam Laporta as the top tight end off the board in round 3 is totally fine.
Well, him being the tight end 1, Makes total sense because he was last year as a rookie. Nothing will probably change that. I just don't love taking a tight end in round 3, period. When Kelsey was in his prime, and I guess we can say that now in the past tense, then yeah, it was a huge advantage to have him. He was like a number 1 receiver. Laporta, I don't know if he's quite that, and so at this point, I would say it's probably too soon for me to take him, although I figure this is probably where he's going to go from here on out. And then let's sneak a quarterback in here. CJ Stroud, just to finish the Houston trifecta, wasn't drafted because nobody expected him to just become a franchise QB overnight. He was, and now he's going around pick 57. Are you comfortable with him in that range?
I don't think so. I mean, I get it on underdog where people draft quarterbacks a bit earlier, but in your typical 1 QB league, I think I would rather just wait and maybe even get a guy like Kyler Murray much later in the draft. So for me, CJ Stroud, I think he's going to be a little too hyped up in fantasy this year. He doesn't give you that huge rushing upside as some other quarterbacks. I'd rather just wait.
Gonna have to agree. You mentioned there's good QB values later, especially on underdog. You can get Kyler in the 80s, Tua around pick 100, and even Anthony Richardson we see go after CJ Stroud. I understand he missed most of his rookie season, but the upside there is so much bigger because of the rushing output. CJ Stroud was great, but he's not a running quarterback, and so I think that you don't have to take a QB as good as he is in real life. You don't have to take him this soon. Now you know about the top 10 risers in terms of ADP. What about the guys who have been falling? Are they worth buying the dip? Well, find out here.